right? His teams, they just play. That is not football. So practice is a huge part of it. Though the media is not allowed, meaning only the team sees and nothing gets out. In terms of like, if he throws 3 picks in practice, no one will talk about it because no one will see it. And that brings me joy because I've always been a believer, and coaches, and more than for the front office, coaches truly, and players too, I guess, care about practice. Some do, some don't. To me, I just, you get paid to make plays on Sunday. And obviously the way you practice leads to that. But I don't care. I'm glad that we get to judge him now on his games. And this game ultimately doesn't mean anything good or bad, right? I mean, he could throw 3 touchdowns or he could throw 3 picks in the game. Now, we would talk about it after, but it does not dictate what the future is going to be this season. And I'm just ready for regular season games and actual tangible shit with this guy to matter. And we're basically, we're almost here. Now, I get why Kyle is playing this guy. I think Andy does it specifically. They don't do joint practices. He uses these games. I think part of Kyle is the Niners not only, I mean, them Green Bay, Kansas City, and Houston, they're 4 teams. They have the longest break till they play, right? All these teams and then play on Sunday. That is, I don't know how many days. I mean, is that 14? I mean, that's a long time. 12? 10?
I started counting on my hands and lost count, but it's a long time.
Yeah, because they're not kicking off till the 11th, and this week is the 25th. Honestly, it might be 17 games, 17 days. I mean, it's a long time. It's more than 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So
7, 9. This is good content. 7, 14 plus 2, 16. So the 17th day will be the game. Yeah. So 16 days between games.
That is a long gap. And, it'll be interesting to see. I would imagine that they wait to cut down because why would you make cuts early? Though you could, while other teams, they still have guys on their roster. Like the Niners could cut down to 53 2 days. They don't have to wait till the 1st. If you're them, you could do it on like Sunday and just all these teams still have all the guys on the roster. They can't even make claims. So you wanted to get our guy Buck Mason to the practice squad. It's a little easier. I had 2 people text me yesterday. They're like, how many running backs do you think they're keeping?
Yeah.
On other teams. I'm like, why do you ask? They're like, this undrafted free agent, fuck, he looks pretty good. Now, that doesn't mean their team would necessarily have the room or need a guy, but like they're evaluating these guys and they're putting this guy is claimable, right? Now, luckily to me, running backs, wide receivers, those type positions, a lot of claimable players still end up on practice squads. If our guy Mason was a tackle or a corner or a defensive pass rusher, you'd be like, you don't have a choice. You got to keep him, right? I do think at running back, it'd probably still be a coin flip. But you
Would
just
Trey
never
Sermon
know.
get claimed?
I don't think. No,
I don't think so either.
I don't think so because part of it is like, okay, there would be teams that had good draft grades on it, but then he has two years. Like, wait, this team who loves running backs just drafts like something's a little off.
Yeah.
Now, I do think teams would be interested in like, hey, could we pay him to bring to our practice squad? Would the Niners even want on their practice squad? You never know. But I think that is part of like get through Trey, get him locked and loaded. But you could argue these are the last reps. But he's going to have 16 games where I bet how many practices do you think they have there? Probably 7, 8 over that time of like real practices and then several walkthroughs where it's kind of time to start locking in for an opponent. I would guess that they're watching a lot of, he probably has already loosely started, maybe not actually, watching Colts defense from last year, right? From a scheme standpoint, like what our guy Eberflus, I always call him Uberflus, and everyone fires my DMs like, he's Eberflus. It's like, oh my God, let's stop acting like he's Belichick or Parcells. Like, there's not another team in the league that was going to hire him. I'm not trying to talk shit about him, but if I'm screw up that guy's name, like, are we sure he's not a one and done guy? But that's beside the point. But the reality is Trey is really going to get judged every game. And it's starting here in about, you said 16 days, so 18 days. And that's what we've all been waiting for. Trent Williams, Kittle, Bosa, it's like we know what we're getting. He really is their big wild card. And then some of the injuries, but it's like week 1, I I don't know exactly how the show's gonna open, but I know he's gonna be involved based on that game, that performance, what he looked like, how'd he play, his composure, how'd he bounce up after he got sacked on the one play, how'd he react after
how did
the
he look
interception?
how did he look as a runner?
Yeah,
I think it's going to be a big, like, to me, that's one thing I would say. Thursday night, we got the opportunity, the first slide of his life on in that first preseason game. I think just more of that. Like, I just want to see a comfort with that. I think one thing he's already shown, I don't have much question, he's constantly looking down the field, but we really don't get to see him until we get to see him with Kittle and Debo and Ayuk and the full offensive line, and they're settled at running back, and you get drive after drive after drive after drive. Football, and I heard somebody say this a few weeks ago, a football player or a football coach say, it's just an adjustment sport. Like, the sport is in the adjustments. How many times has a team marched down the field with their first drive, pre-scripted, they look good, and then their offense falls apart afterwards?
Didn't we talk about this last year, how we don't overrate first drive touchdowns?
Absolutely. And I think you were taking a shot at the Raiders last year when you made that comment. But, now we get to see adjustments to him, adjustments back, adjustments to him, adjustments back. That's where careers are made. That's where seasons are made. So,
and it's what's so fun about, like, talking about quarterbacks, right? How they adapt, how they improve, how they react after bad games. Like, to me, I just feel so confident of what we're going to get out of a lot of their core guys. Like, I'm expecting Fred Warner to have 12 tackles week 1. I'm expecting Debo or Brandon Ayuk to combine for a couple touchdowns. Like, Kittle make some big plays, Bosa to get a couple sacks, Trent Williams to fucking road grade. What's Trey Lance look like when he's running around and Roquan's chasing him?
Yeah.
Say one thing the Bears have is a guy that can run around after him, right? I mean, that's, of all the things they have, is just one guy that can run around after him. It's kind of going to be interesting. Like, is Roquan kind of spying him around? That'll be fun. I mean, because we're going to have to, it's not exactly week 3 Denver, 49ers here, but week 1, if you're going to put a shitty matchup, week 1's fine. That's the week where it's like anything kind of, you're so excited for a meaningful game. And if you are going to suck too, which I expect the Bears to be terrible, like, at least they have a second-year quarterback that's kind of entertaining to run around. Now, that could be kind of fun. The Niners defense just teeing off on him. He might be running for his life.
Yeah.
By about the second half, you might feel bad for him.
Maybe he serves as, like, he's basically Russell Wilson's scout team for the Niners, preparing for Russ. Little mobility at quarterback.
See, but I think I don't think Russ is into.
Well, maybe not, anymore. But he's been a problem before, or Kyler, or whatever. Like, let's see Drake Jackson. I think it gives us just the opportunity. Let's see Drake Jackson in space against Justin Fields, if that happens. Right? That would be. I
do think the key. And it's pretty clear that Kyle is okay with playing him without some of the other guys, right? Like, I don't expect. UC Debo just bought a house. Looked like in, like, Los Angeles, but maybe it was in the Bay Area. Those guys aren't going to play, Right. So it's like he's cool with putting Trey in with just some random guys. And yeah, I mean, this is the last kind of, you just got to make it out healthy to get to week 1. No injuries of anyone that's going to play. Now, I don't want even some random guys to get injured, but you want no one that matters to go down.
Yeah.
Like, I was flipping on the Jets game last night, Monday Night Football. I mean, just a terrible, Jets, Falcons, but it's still Monday Night Football, so I watched a little.
Nice first and second drives.
And this is Zach Wilson just sitting there on the bench. You're like, God, that sucks.
I think one other thing just made me think is, like, opportunities like the Niners have this season, and just anybody, because clearly the football media world has figured out that Trey Lance is good for clicks. So, but fans are very interested. I mean, the Niners have been good. The Niners are a famous team. Kyle Shanahan's a big deal. Trey Lance is a big deal. You just don't get that many opportunities like this. A highly drafted quarterback going to a good football team. So you get this weird mix of expectations and growing pains, or whatever it's going to look like. You just don't get that every year in the NFL. You don't get, last year you got Mac on the Patriots. Okay, kind of, but not as big of a prospect. And I don't think viewed as good of a football team as what the Niners could be. But generally speaking, I had somebody ask me the other day, like, why do Heisman Trophy winners why aren't those players the same players that become NFL stars? I was explaining some of the, like, there's a variety of reasons, but one of the reasons is, if you're a Heisman winner, you're probably a good prospect, which means you get drafted high and you get drafted to a bad team and you're just set up to fail. And that is not Trey Lance. He's also not a Heisman winner, but he is not set up to fail. And that's just, it's really a fun thing to watch when you get a player of his talent in a position like he's in.
I think just being you could argue the same thing about basketball, right? I mean, great basketball and college football players are not guaranteed to be great pros.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. But there's a long history of it going both ways, right? Adam Morrison's to Johnny Manziel's.